At a busy construction site, heavy materials were being unloaded. A forklift carefully lifted a pallet to place it into the back of a truck. Nearby, a worker walked dangerously close to the machine. As the operator maneuvered, the load began to sway and lose stability. The worker noticed the movement and instinctively tried to intervene, reaching out with his hands. But the weight was overwhelming, and within seconds the pallet slipped off the forks. The heavy load came crashing down, pinning the man to the ground. Co-workers rushed in to help, but the weight was far too much to move. The incident was caused by multiple safety violations: no designated safe zone, improper securing of a load, and the fatal mistake of trying to stop it by hand. At the warehouse parking lot, everything seemed normal until a truck suddenly sped onto the site. The driver had lost his brakes and was unable to stop. The vehicle rushed forward at full speed, heading directly into the area where workers were present. One man was caught in its path. The impact was sudden and gave him no chance to escape. The heavy truck struck him violently, dragging his body across the ground. Co-workers ran to help, but the injuries were fatal. The tragedy was caused by multiple safety failures: no proper maintenance of the vehicle, no enforced speed limits, and no protected pedestrian zones. This incident highlights how neglected equipment and poor traffic control can turn a routine day into a deadly disaster. At a construction site, workers were on the second floor of a building, going about their routine tasks. Suddenly, a loud cracking noise echoed, and the ceiling structure began collapsing above them. Chunks of concrete, metal parts, and debris fell heavily to the ground. The situation unfolded rapidly, and it seemed certain that the workers would fall along with the collapsing materials. A fall from such a height would have caused serious injuries or even fatalities. Fortunately, a protective safety net had been installed below the work area. It held the workers and prevented disaster. This incident clearly demonstrates why protective systems must always be in place on construction sites. During excavation work, several workers were standing close to the wall of a trench. The soil appeared stable, but its surface showed signs of crumbling. No reinforcement had been installed. Suddenly, the ground began to give way, and tons of soil collapsed. Some workers were buried, while others managed to jump back. Co-workers rushed to dig them out, but the soil kept sliding. The cause was clear: no trench shoring, ignored warning signs, and workers positioned dangerously near the slope. This incident shows that even simple precautions could have prevented a disaster. At an industrial site, workers were standing near a furnace system. Suddenly, gas or steam built up inside, and the pressure rose sharply. The metal structure could not withstand it, and a violent explosion occurred. A massive blast of fire and smoke burst outward, spreading in all directions. Workers nearby were caught in the explosion, suffering burns and injuries from flying debris. Co-workers rushed to help and provide assistance. The cause was traced to poor pressure control and faulty equipment. This incident shows that furnaces and boilers must undergo strict inspections, have reliable sensors, and receive regular maintenance to prevent catastrophic failures. At a construction site, workers were holding a stack of large glass panels. One man stood directly in front, unaware of the danger. Suddenly, the stack became unstable and started tilting forward. The worker stepped back, but it was too late. Heavy sheets collapsed, knocking him down. This incident shows that standing in the danger zone is never acceptable. At the construction site, everything appeared routine. Workers were moving across the area, some riding in transport vehicles, while others were stationed at the base of a high slope. No one expected the disaster that was seconds away. Suddenly, a loud cracking sound echoed from above, and an enormous wall of soil and rock collapsed. A massive landslide thundered down with unstoppable force, sweeping through everything in its path. Workers and machinery were caught directly in the flow. Dozens of people were buried instantly under the rushing earth, with vehicles crushed and engulfed. Those nearby screamed and ran, desperately trying to escape. Co-workers and rescue teams rushed in, but the unstable slope made recovery nearly impossible as more soil continued to slide. The tragic event was caused by severe safety failures. No slope reinforcement, ignored warning signs of soil instability, and allowing workers to remain in a high-risk zone. This catastrophe is a grim reminder that neglecting engineering safeguards and proper planning can lead to devastating consequences and the loss of many lives. At a parking facility, a mechanic was carrying out a routine inspection of a vehicle. He stood directly in front of the car, carefully checking its condition, focused entirely on his task. Everything appeared normal until suddenly another vehicle entered at high speed from behind. The driver lost control and crashed into the car where the mechanic was working. The force of the impact propelled the vehicle forward, pinning the man against a solid barrier. The event happened within seconds, giving him no chance to move to safety. Nearby co-workers rushed to the scene in panic, but the injuries sustained were fatal. The tragedy was caused by serious safety failures. No protective barriers in place, no enforcement of speed restrictions, and negligence in site traffic management. This incident serves as a reminder that working around vehicles requires strict organization, designated safe zones, and continuous traffic control to prevent deadly accidents. On the production line, a worker moved too close to a rotating spool of metal wire. At one moment, his clothing or hand became caught in the wire. The machine was not stopped, and the spool continued turning, pulling the man inward. Within seconds, he was pinned against the structure. The cause was the lack of guards, emergency stop systems, and disregard for safety rules when working near rotating equipment. At a construction site, a worker was standing between a stack of steel bars and a large cement container. The space was narrow and offered no safe exit. Suddenly, the stack lost stability and collapsed with a loud crash. The worker was directly in its path. The heavy bars knocked him down and pinned him against the container. Under the pressure, the structure failed and the top burst open. A flow of cement spilled out, covering the man. Within seconds, he was trapped by metal and buried by material. Co-workers rushed to help, but the situation was extremely dangerous. The cause was unsecured steel and poor storage practices.